Hey everybody, Devin Roberts back here with Lore Archive, and today I'm going to be giving a summary of The Eye of the World, the first of the Robert Jordan Wheel of Time fantasy books. Today we're going to be breaking down just a little bit of the background of the book, go into a little bit of how it opens and where characters lead, and give you a summary of the book. A lot of the times with this Robert Jordan Wheel of Time series, the whole series is 14 books long, 15 if you include the prequel. So usually by the time you're about halfway through the series, you really are looking to go back and get a refresher from what you were reading in the very first part of the series. So that's what I want to do with you here today. Just go over and do a quick refresher of The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. Now, in this world, we have two different types of magic, Sidene and Sidar, and one imbues males and one imbues females with the power to use magic. When the Dark One, the essential devil of this world, was originally sealed up, Now, this story picks up with a character named Luz Theron, who we're actually picking up in the past of what our actual main story is going to be. And Luz Theron has very obviously gone mad. He has just somewhat awoken from his madness and realized that he has actually killed his entire family in his madness. Luz Theron is a character of significant magical strength, and he uses that strength in his madness to kill his family, then pretty much explodes for the most part. As we move into our main timeline, we are actually introduced to a young boy and his father walking down a dirt road. And as they are walking down this dirt road, this young boy feels a presence behind him. He realizes that a dark rider is following him, and although he can't actually look at this rider, he can feel his eyes on him as if he's being watched by this person. And these two characters being followed by this rider are Rand al'Thor and his father Tam, and they are regular sheep herding farmers living in the village of the Two Rivers at this point. Now, as Rand and Tam both get to the village of the Two Rivers, Rand is actually able to go off and talk to two of his friends who have both also experienced the same dark horseman rider following them. And those two friends are Matt and Perrin. So now we are with who will wind up being our three main characters throughout the series: Rand al'Thor, Matt Coffin, and Perrin Ibarra. Now, they are told that as they ask around about this mysterious rider and what has been happening to them, that maybe the source of their problems or the person following them could be one of the three strangers that have shown up in the Two Rivers. The Two Rivers is a very small farming-style village. There are very few people there, and very few people there have ever seen beyond the borders of the Two Rivers. So new people in town is a very big deal here. Actually, as they're going around looking to talk to these people to figure out what they might know about the incident, they realize that these three people, two of them are who actually winds up being Moraine Sedai and Aes Sedai, who is visiting the village. And to get into that, and Aes Sedai is essentially a female magic user from something called the White Tower. And the White Tower is where all the female magic users kind of commune and form guilds and go into the world and affect things that they are going to affect. The White Tower is said to have risen and fallen kingdoms, kings and queens throughout all of the land. So with that being said, one of those Aes Sedai is here in the Two Rivers, along with her warder or male protector, Lan, who is both there. They're obviously looking into staying in an inn, asking questions around the village, but they're obviously not the people that have been following Rand, Matt, and Perrin. The third person in this village is Marilyn, who's actually a gleeman, and gleemen are essentially traveling performers who tell stories and information, kind of like a very, very beloved bard who travels from town to town telling stories that he's seen in his journeys. So none of these three people are the people that have been following Rand, Matt, and Perrin, and as they progress through the story, they're not able to figure out who is following them, so they all just essentially go home for the day. So once Rand is back at his house that evening, the Two Rivers is actually attacked by an army of Trollocs. Trollocs are kind of half men, half beast type creatures that serve the Dark One, the ultimate evil in the world. Trollocs are kind of his foot soldiers. They come with the mouths of wolves, the hands of bears, just different pieces of animals attached to a male body. And these are being led by Murdral, which are essentially a combination of like men and snakes, maybe. It's a person very white-faced, thin, kind of slender man-looking kind of person who lead these Trollocs into battle. And they are pushing Trollocs into the two rivers, having them slaughter scores of people. Now, as Rand is seeing all of this unfold, his father, Tam, somehow actually goes and pulls a heron-marked sword from under his bed. We actually quickly find out that a heron-marked blade is the sign of a sword master, implying that Tam has in some past life become a sword master. He starts fighting Trollocs, is able to defend against them well, but is quickly overwhelmed, and Rand is face to face with a single Trolloc attacking him. This Trolloc actually speaks to Rand and says something to him, but completely ignore that because it never ever happens again for the rest of the series. Rand somehow winds up killing this Trolloc, finds his father Tam badly injured, and starts to drag him back to the two rivers to seek medical attention. Once back in the two rivers, they find Moraine and Nynaeve. Moraine is again the Aes Sedai from earlier that was visiting their village. She is performing healing and miracles, trying to save people with her magic powers. And Nynaeve, who is their village wisdom and healer, and both are trying to help Tam in every way they can. Now, while this is going on, Rand is informed by Moraine that she is here in search of the Dragon Reborn. She is in search of a hero reborn that she believes is in the two rivers, and she knows it's someone here, but she really doesn't know if it's Rand, Mat, or Perrin yet. She has clues to tell her who it is, but it's led her to this village and boys born during a certain time frame in this village, but not much more than that. So she's not sure which one of them it is, and because Trollocs are on their way and time is of the essence, she tells them that they have to leave, or that their village is going to be repeatedly attacked by these Trollocs. As they're working away from the two rivers, Egwene, who is kind of Rand's somewhat girlfriend at this point, actually says that she is going to come with them. Moraine doesn't really want her to come. She kind of protests, but they don't have very much time, so they start on their way out of the two rivers with Tom Merrilin, the Gleeman, Moraine and Lan, as well as all the kids, Rand, Mat, Perrin, and Egwene, his girlfriend, respectively. So that's our party, and we're headed out. Quickly, the village wisdom Nynaeve actually catches up to us in a town. She is trying to bring the kids back. She feels that they have been kidnapped by this Aes Sedai for her crazy magic Aes Sedai schemes, and just wants to bring them back to the two rivers, to their families, where they can remain safe, not really realizing all the bigger implications that are going on right now. And Nynaeve is then accepted as kind of part of our party, mostly by force of her own will. So now we have our main party of Lan, Moraine, Tom Merrilin, Rand, Mat, Perrin, Egwene, and Nynaeve. And this is kind of, I won't say our party for most of the series, but this is a real big set of our main characters. And Moraine tells them that they need to get to the White Tower, the head of Aes Sedai society, so that they can figure out which of the three boys, Rand, Mat, or Perrin, is actually the Dragon Reborn. And so they begin on this adventure. Again, Egwene and Nynaeve are with them. Moraine argues with them that they shouldn't come, but they don't have time to argue, so they essentially move along anyway. They are being, again, pursued by Trollocs. At this point, they actually wind up running into a city known as Shadow Logoth. Shadow Logoth is a city where the people who live there essentially did so many depraved and evil acts that even the Dark One and his minions are now scared to enter the city. It's like the Wheel of Time equivalent of Sodom and Gomorrah. So our party goes to hide. Our party goes there to hide from the Trollocs, goes into the city. Mat, Rand, and Perrin, the three boy buddies, wind up running off by themselves like absolute fools, and wind up running into a treasure room. In this treasure room, they find loads and loads of gold and items and things that would interest. Obviously, these kids are brand new out of their small little farming village. This is extremely exciting to them. And they start playing with the gold pieces like idiots. And character shows up. His actual name is Mordeith, and he claims to be the visage of evil. Essentially, gives them a very evil view, uses dark magic in front of them, and essentially makes them all flee this hoard of gold and treasure that they all found. They find their way back to Moraine and the gang, who chastises them for leaving in the first place, because again, they are idiots in this specific situation. Now, as we are continuing on, night is falling. The Trollocs do finally decide to enter Shadow Logoth, being driven by the Murdral and the knowledge of who is in there hiding. They enter Shadow Logoth, which makes our characters have to run away. And now, as they are running, the Trollocs are right on their tail at this point, so we actually wind up getting split up into 3 separate parties. We have the party of Rand, Matt, and Tom Marilyn, the Gleeman bard storyteller. And then we have the party of Lan, Moraine, and Nynaeve, so the Aes Sedai, her warder, and the Village Wisdom, and the party of Egwene and Perrin. So these 3 parties all go their separate ways at this point. They're not able to stay together. And the first one we wind up following is actually the Rand, Matt, and Tom Marilyn party. They are still being pursued by Trollocs again. They actually make their way to a boat. They jump in the water. If they get onto this boat, the boat captain is very upset with them for having come to this boat in the first place, but then is less upset when he realizes that they are actually being pursued by Trollocs and allows them to stay on the boat in exchange for Tom Marilyn providing his entertainment services as a gleeman to the shipmates. At this point, it's also revealed that Matt has kept a dagger, an item from the treasure hoard, and is now starting to act very strangely around it. And this is going to define Matt as a character and how he behaves for the next couple books. So now Tom Marilyn actually starts to train Matt and Rand as gleemen. He trains them as gleemen so that they can do something outside of just being Ta'veren and caught in the whole mess that they've been thrown into. He's hoping to escape with them to a place where none of these Aes Sedai will ever be able to find them. Obviously, this doesn't wind up working out. They're actually attacked by Murdral, and Tom, in an attempt to save the boys, throws himself at this Murdral, hoping to kill it so that they can escape. The boys are able to run off. Rest in peace, Tom. Moment of silence. Then we move on. Matt and Rand at this point are very, very sad. They are essentially poor after their adventures with Tom Marilyn. They aren't able to make much money. They're finding out adventuring is significantly harder than they thought it would be. With very little shelter, very little food, and very little water, our main characters are really struggling right now. So while they struggle, we hop over to Egwene and Perrin, and they have actually run into some people known as the Othamier. And the Othamier follow a philosophy known as the Way of the Leaf. The Way of the Leaf is essentially a philosophy of ultimate pacifism. They won't fight anyone for any circumstance. Doesn't matter if Trollocs kill their family, they don't get into a fight. Through this little interaction, Egwene flirts with a boy, kind of has her first out-of-town love interest. It's a big moment for Egwene kind of becoming herself in the world, and Perrin tells the Othamier that their way of doing things is stupid. Perrin very much establishes a issue with the way the Othamier operate and the philosophies that they have established. Very quickly, we have to go deal with some White Cloaks who are actually religious zealots. The White Cloaks essentially believe anything having to do with magic or anything that isn't directly in the way of the light is an abomination and therefore a piece of the Dark One. Now, as Perrin is going to rescue Egwene from these White Cloaks, he actually runs into a character we learn is named Elias. And Elias has the ability to speak to wolves and commune with them. He has yellow eyes and lives in the woods and is very sneaky and has a lot of wolf-like qualities. And he actually tells Perrin that he is like him, that Perrin is going to have the ability to speak to wolves, that he's going to get yellow eyes, and that he's going to have all these abilities that he doesn't know of. And Perrin doesn't take this very well. This isn't something he's comfortable with. He didn't want to be a part of all this Ta'veren mess in the first place, and the idea that he has any form of magical power or anything that makes him special really makes him uncomfortable. Now, as he's wrestling with this, he actually makes a friend with a wolf named Hopper. He's able to kind of speak to him through his mind. He makes a friend with that wolf. Hopper and him go in an attempt to rescue Egwene, to stop these White Cloaks, and Hopper is actually killed in the process, which sends Perrin into an angry frenzy. His new connection with wolves, it makes him very angry, and he kills White Cloaks. To the White Cloaks, this looks very odd, as if some crazy yellow-eyed man is slaughtering men just simply for killing a wolf. And it actually puts Perrin at opposition with the White Cloaks for the rest of the series, as they see him as a dark friend. So now we jump back to Matt and Rand, who are in Caemlyn, which is the capital of Andor, where they are from. The Two Rivers is a small village in Andor, and Caemlyn is its large capital. They are still kind of beggars, but they've wound up being put put up at an inn. Now, Rand runs into someone back from the Two Rivers at this point named Padan Fain. Padan Fain is here from the Two Rivers, and he has survived somehow, which is very surprising to Rand. And he's acting very, very strangely. He's acting weird and actually scaring Rand to the point of where Rand feels he needs to run for him. He bolts, and he is hoping to go find what we know now as the false dragon that is being paraded around the city. Someone has claimed to be the Dragon Reborn, has been captured now by Aes Sedai, who have stopped him and gentled him, which has taken his ability to use magic, and he's being paraded around the city to show, that he's been defeated. Rand inevitably makes it to a castle wall, a stone castle wall that he climbs to get a better view so he can actually see the false dragon, whose name we know as Logain. Rand, when he sees the false dragon Logain, actually is able to make eye contact with him. Logain sees him and makes eye contact with him from a very, very far distance, and they have eye contact for a very long time. A very long time. Logain then gives some ominous laughter as he is carted off in his prison cell, and before Rand has much time to think about it, someone calls from inside the courtyard, "Hey," and he falls inside the courtyard. Now, the person who called him was Elaine Drakand, who actually winds up being the princess heir to Andor, the princess of the castle wall that he was just on. She is flanked by her two brothers, Gawain and Galad. And we learned that Gawain and Galad are essentially opposites at this point in the story. Gawain is very likable, very friendly, very curious, very excited to meet Rand as a stranger, while Galad chastises them for breaking rules and runs off to get the guards. And they were all dragged from the courtyard to in front of the Queen. Queen Morghese is the head of Andor and Caemlyn, respectively. She is the ruler of the land in which all of the boys that are currently going on this adventure are from. So with that being said, they meet Morghese in her palace, and she evaluates what got Rand here in the first place. And very quickly we realize that Morghese actually has an Aes Sedai with her, and that Aes Sedai looks at Rand and determines through some form of foretelling, vision seeing that she has the power to do, she determines that Rand is actually going to play a major part in the next big destruction change in the world. And this is something that alarms the Aes Sedai, and that she quickly alerts the Queen of, who has Rand right there in front of her, and within another minute or so worth of questioning, she just lets him leave. Someone who she was just told will cause the next destruction of the world, not an interrogation, not a prison cell, not just lets him head back off. So Andor was already a meeting place for the party, so most of the party is able to find each other here in Andor as they're getting back to the inn. Moiraine, Lan, and Nynaeve have been together for a while now. Moiraine and Nynaeve have had some issues over power struggles. Both have been leaders in their own respective worlds, and they don't necessarily get along right out of the gate, but not terribly much has gone on with them right now. Rand and Matt are just happy to be able to get someone that can give them easier food and housing, and they very much realizing that adventuring wasn't what they expected it to be at this point. And we get Perrin and Egwene back. So our squad is back together now, and Moiraine realizes and finds out that there is actually a threat to the Eye of the World, which is where the Dark One's prison is being held. So she says that we need to go immediately and check out and make sure nothing is going to happen to the Eye of the World. So they change their plans from headed to the White Tower and Tar Valon, and instead they head for the Eye of the World. Oh yes, very important. In this time frame, Rand meets a character who is actually an Ogier that looks kind of like this, something like that. And his name is Loyal. Fantastic character. Ogier are very large, very green-loving creatures, and he is now very interested in Rand for him being Ta'veren and all of the possibilities swirling around him. So he kind of joins up as part of our party here in 2. Now, with that, the party decides that the only way they are going to be able to make it to the Eye of the World is to use what's called the Ways. So, side note, the Ways are kind of a interdimensional pathway big stone doors with a picture of a tree at the top. If you remove a leaf from the tree, you can walk into this, what is essential, like unlimited darkness within another dimension. Every step you take in that other dark dimension is the equivalent of 100 steps in our dimension. So you can travel much quicker by using these waygates. So the party takes the waygates, which is generally very frowned upon as there's very little known about them, and they have not been traveled in for years and years and years. So as they take the waygates, they inevitably make it out the other side, and they are outside the Blight. And the Blight is a terrible, terrible, cursed area outside the Eye of the World, where the Dark One has constantly sent his armies of Trollocs, Murdral, and monsters to try to overcome the Borderlanders who actually live outside the Blight, and to allow his armies into the world. He has been held back from this for a very long time, and they are now in one of those cities getting ready to enter the Blight. And they're offered an army by some of the city leaders. They're offered a lot to be able to help them, but Moraine decides that it's going to be best for them to go in as a small party, as they will be less likely to be discovered, and if nothing is wrong in the first place, then they will still have soldiers to defend against the Dark One's army. So Moraine takes the small party into the Eye of the World, and as they're going into the Eye of the World, they actually meet someone called the Green Man. And the Green Man is the guardian of the Eye of the World. He is essentially, I imagine him like the good jolly green giant personally, but you do whatever you want. But he is essentially the guardian of the Eye of the World and the Dark One's prison right there. Very quickly, Moraine talks to him. She seems to feel that nothing is wrong, and so she goes to leave. Lo and behold, as she goes to leave, pops into the clearing are two of the Forsaken. The Forsaken are servants of the Dark One. They are like his 5-star generals, and what they do is they act out missions specifically for the Dark One in the shadow, meaning if they're here, something is going on with the Eye of the World. Immediately, the Green Man realizes that something is wrong, something needs to be done about this, and he throws himself in one of the Forsaken, actually winds up able to kill one of them, but loses his own life in the process. So now there's one Forsaken. Our group starts running from him, starts trying to escape. Then Rand is pretty quickly thrown into a one-on-one against this Forsaken. He is thrown to not only just a regular battle, but a battle in his mind where the Forsaken shows him dark images and dark thoughts and evil things about his mother dying and different things of that nature from his past. He is then able to overcome that. He begs and pleads and calls upon external powers to help him. He is then able to draw upon the source, able to use magical power, and uses it to kill the last Forsaken. Now, using magical power means he is a man who can channel. Men who can channel are destined to go insane, are slowly going mad by the power that they use, and the taint the Dark One has put on the true source, where the source of power men draw their magic from. So he immediately runs to Moraine, basically in tears, and asks her, is he okay? What's going on? Is he going to destroy the world? Is he going to go mad? And Moraine just looks at him and essentially says, maybe. I don't know. And that's where they leave us at the end of the first book of the Wheel of Time. Guys, thank you for staying here through this with me and getting a little refresher. I know if you're about halfway through the series, a refresher at what happened in the beginning can be important, or if you just finished the first book and you're just looking to make sure you caught all the major points. I hope everyone has enjoyed this quick summary of Book 1 of the Wheel of Time. I am Devin Roberts, this is Lore Archive, and thank you all for showing up today. Peace.